everyone, it's Shauna with JSB Arts. For the last day or two, I've been looking for tutorials on darting for ceramics. Jen Allen posted several different handouts, I guess you would say, that I found on Pinterest, but couldn't really find anything regarding what I was looking for. So, I did a trial run with a mug yesterday, and decided to do a little here's what I do tutorial for darting for a 20-ounce beer stein. Hope you enjoy! Here you can see the handout that I was talking about from Jen Allen's website. This is an example of single-pointed darts with what they are as far as the triangles being cut out and where and how it's going to affect the body, with some pictures, I believe, of her works. This bottom one is similar to what I'm doing on, where there's 4 single-pointed darts cut from the rim, and here she uses it to create the vases. Rather than using the darts at the neck of the form, I'm using it at the foot. Behind here is another example. Here is darting basics. Darting is obviously most commonly used with sewing. Women are quite familiar with it, so we can get those form-fitted dresses and skirts and blouses and all that good stuff. But here you can actually see how the sewing dart was taken and then transformed into the ceramic dart, or how we use it in ceramics. Here is a double-pointed dart where it completely changes the form rather than just one end or the other. You are taking a chunk of clay out and then you're compressing the sides together and it makes it concave. This is especially important for hand builders as it gives us a chance to imitate forms that we cannot otherwise create that are very similar to those that are made on the wheel. It's like in here where you can do the fat-bellied bottom where it comes in and then comes back out for a wider rim. The only other example that I found of darting was on Amico's website, and it's to make a small teacup. The directions are great, very detailed, and I believe the dart that I tried for my trial cup was 1.5 centimeters long. For the teacup, it recommends, here it is, darts that are 1 inch wide by 3/4 inch deep. So I think we're going to try that on today's Stein. I'm also going to lengthen it a little bit because the Stein that I made yesterday probably only is going to hold about 18 ounces and I need a 20-ounce Stein. So we're starting with an 11.5 inch long by 5.5 inch tall slab. So let's go take a look at that. Here's the slab that I mentioned earlier. The length is 11.5 inches. The width is 5.5. You can also see 2 other shapes that are cut out. Once we do and execute the single pointed darts, remember there's 4 of them, it's going to create a squared bottom, which is what this square is for. That's going to be our initial bottom. I wanted to create a thicker bottom to be able to handle the wear and tear on a beer stein. So we're going to add this circular form to the bottom to not only give it a different aesthetic look, but also to help create that thicker bottom. The slab is 1/4 inch thick, so that now makes the bottom 1/2 inch. Alright, I've moved my slabs from the initial work table where I compress it once I pull it from the slab roller, and now here is where I actually do the forms. So the first thing I'm going to do is just real quickly, not really compressing, but just smoothing the sides from the handling. As you can see, the clay is still quite damp, even though it has been setting out for, a couple hours at least. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing again. Oh, got a dry piece right there. Okay, now here's where I take my pony roller and I'm going to gently roll the sides so that way this is going to be the mouth of the Stein. Want it nice and soft and rounded, smooth edge so that way it's comfortable on the lip. While I'm also at this stage, I'm going to go ahead and cut a bevel on one side. I'm going to use my little slab bevel tool, and we're going to do a 45-degree angle on the right side. And scrap clay gets thrown over there. I'm going to carefully rotate it one more time. I'm going to use the roller to compress that top lip, or the top edge where the lip will meet clay when taking a drink. And now I'm going to cut a 45-degree angle over here as well. So I found that you want the clay soft because when it's too firm and you try to curve the clay around, it will actually cause cracks and it won't adhere quite as well when you're trying to join the two scored ends. I made that mistake yesterday when I was trying to make, or when I made the very first mug of this kind, at least for me, experimenting with different dartings, the depths and everything else. I'm by no means an expert at this. This is my second time trying it. But in light of there being very few tutorials, I figured I'd bring you along on my second trip. And if it helps even one other person, then awesome. You can see here that both ends have been scored and slipped. And yes, I'm using a Pringles can wrapped in saran wrap as my guide. Since I'm the only one here taking the video, I'm going to have to pause you. I'll go ahead and put the seams together, join them all up, and then I'll show you where I'm at. Hold that thought. Alright, and we're back. You can see here that I've overlapped the beveled edges just slightly. You want to meet the two ends where they're beveled about halfway. I found that actually creates the best seam. Alright, so the seams have all been compressed. And now I'm going to use this little 4-inch circle form from the Circle-matic form finders. You can see right there. Now, let's see if I can. There you go. If you want to get these templates, go to circlematic.com. Sandy's a great person to work with. So the reason that I'm using this for this particular project is you see how we've got the 4 lines right here? I'm going to use those as guides, and that's going to be where the point is for all of my darts. So, being careful not to hit the top. Whoops. I'm going to mark off on my cylinder where each of these lines meet. Oh, that's a little uneven. That's alright. We're going to take care of that. And then one more. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure down approximately an inch, which would be right about there, probably. And then, with that being my center, I'm going to make each of these darts 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I've marked off all of my darts. I changed my mind. Going across here from one point to another is an inch, and then I went 3/4 of an inch down. It was easier to center 1 inch along the rim rather than 3/4 of an inch. And this is what I used, well, to draw my lines and measurements and all that fun stuff. Now some people like to use a fettling knife to make their cuts. I actually use a paring knife when I'm cutting my slabs into their predetermined templates. But for the darts, I found an X-Acto knife works quite nicely. So all I've done is made superficial cuts along the top. Doesn't go all the way through. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and very carefully follow my line that I've drawn. When I get to the bottom, simply pull your knife out. Let's adjust a little bit. And do the same thing on the opposite side. And then this should just come right out. So we're going to do that 3 other times. And then we're going to push all of our new pieces from the bottom in and join the darts together, and we'll go from there. Alright, all of our darts have been cut out. Looks almost like the top of a castle, if that's how you want to think of it. So now I'm going to grab my serrated rib and I'm going to score each of these. Now, as you can see here, once we fix the focus, for the scoring here, I've gone horizontal. On the other one, I've gone vertical. By alternating the way the scored lines mark or are lined up, I found that that helps to also hold a better join with this type of joining where they're a little askew. Okay, now I've got a little bit of water over here and a paintbrush, and since the clay is still fairly moist, I'm going to go ahead and just add a little dab of water to all of my scored sides. And last one. Now what we're going to do is gently fold these sides in until the ends meet. And then you're going to fix the seam, get it all lined up, make it stick, and once I do that with all 4 of these, I'll be back. And we are all joined with a lovely pretty square bottom. You can see this is what it looks like in the profile view. Now remember, what we have on the bottom here is actually the top. Let's see. That might be a little better as far as being able to see. I also went ahead and took little pieces of clay and reinforced the darts both on the outside and on the inside. And then I took my rib and smoothed it out. Now the next step, I'm going to go ahead and score all 4 of these sides, and we're going to add our bottom. Alright, now that we've got the bottom of the mug all scored, as well as the bottom of this, we're going to go ahead and add our water. Turns out that this bottom comes out to 2 inches square, and my cutout, which I used a cookie cutter for, is just shy of 2.5. So it's a little bigger, but that gives me ample opportunity to really blend it into the surface of the cup. Make sure I place that on level and good. Now for me, I'm going to go ahead and take my roller and get a good seal. Oops. Okay. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to tip this. Get all the dust off of my Lazy Susan. Tip this up. And when I look inside, I'm going to reinforce the bottom. So as far as darting goes, that's about it. So we did 4 single-pointed darts in the bottom of a hand-built mug. The length was 11.5 inches. The height was 5.5. The darts were 1 inch wide and 3/4 of an inch long. We cut those out, scored and slipped, pushed them together, added the bottom, and we're good to go. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, comments, or anything else that you can think of, feel free to let me know. Would love to hear your insight. I'm all about learning, constructive criticism, all that good stuff. So thanks for tuning in.